The character Glass Joe comes from the popular Nintendo franchise Punch-Out!, wherein he's famous for being the first opponent and also the weakest. In this run, I made my character look as close to Glass Joe as I could, and take that 1-99 loss streak into something a lot more acceptable. Because Glass Joe is the weakest opponent in Punch-Out!, I put 1 for strength and endurance to reflect his character. I kept perception at a 1 because even if I'm using VATS, my punches will be guaranteed to hit. All of my other stats didn't matter as much except for agility, in which I would increase it 1 more time for the Blitz perk. And Joe started his destiny of turning the tides of his scoreboard. The roaches inside the vault proved to be Joe's greatest challenge of the run yet. Joe got exposed to the first bit of sunlight after 200 years, found the goodest boy in all of the wasteland, and killed the first few raiders that were bothering Preston Garvey. After rescuing Preston and his friends from the enemies outside of the Cambridge Museum, I immediately booked it to the Drumlin Diner. Once at the diner, Glass Joe then started employing the one strategy that would carry him throughout the entire run. Ever since the beginning of the game, sneak attacks will always deal double damage. So by pairing that with high agility and stealth skills, Glass Joe would then be able to get far more stealth attacks and be able to do them a lot more often. After killing Simone and Wolfgang, I then took Glass Joe to the General Atomics Galleria. While at the Galleria, Glass Joe was nearly killed a few times by the Mr. Handys. Bean, the Mr. Handy that spawns in at the Galleria's cafe, tried to kill me by offering me a coffee hotter than the surface of the sun. After helping myself to a hot cup of joe, I picked up the single weapon that I would be permitting myself to be using for the entire run, the boxing glove. After picking up the boxing glove, Glass Joe was nearly killed by the robots at the Galleria. Once back at the Museum of Freedom, I needed to refill Glass Joe's health, so I went past the museum and found a stunted Yao Guai. Future me remembered that he's here. With his weapon now in hand, Glass Joe then started his quest to become the best boxer in all of the post-apocalypse Commonwealth. After rescuing Preston and his friends, Glass Joe decided to fight gravity and lost horribly. There was no way that I was able to kill all the raiders and the Deathclaw alone, so I took the bear away from its lunch and took the bear to the raiders in Concord so they can take care of the raiders and the incoming Deathclaw. The Deathclaw naturally also took care of a few raiders for me as well. After the bear and the Deathclaw successfully took care of the raiders, I watched National Geographic go on for a while as the bear and Deathclaw started to fight each other. Much to my surprise, the Yao Guai, despite its injuries, won against the Deathclaw. With the bear being the only remaining enemy in all of Concord, I then decided it would be a good idea to try and sneak attack it, which ended about as well as you could imagine. With the bear being the last remaining enemy in Concord, I tried to lead it into a shop where it would not be able to fit through the door. Sora thought. What a bear could not do, however, is fit inside of a flight of stairs. With the bear now stuck inside of the store, this allowed me to try and stealth attack it, and finally make Concord free of all the hostiles. I ended up getting a bear hug instead. The second attempt was a lot more successful as the bear was trying to kill Preston rather than me. I then punched the bear so hard that it somehow exploded. While I was on my way to Diamond City, I discovered a basketball court and found that Glass Joe is no better at basketball than he is at boxing. After I arrived in Cambridge, I supported our local troops by killing all the ghouls in the area, and finally arrived at Diamond City. I also went to Good Neighbor so I could be able to fast travel to it later, killed an insurance salesman, and with Good Neighbor's introduction out of the way, I needed to rescue Nick Valentine, which means I needed to train. With Nick Valentine rescued, we both fought our way through Vault 114. When it came to Skinny Malone, I felt it was best to try and end things peacefully and avoid conflict. Skinny, however, felt otherwise. With Skinny and his men taken care of, all that was left was for me and Nick Valentine to go back to Diamond City and try and find out where my son went. Found my house keys, gave a journalist a piece of my mind, and committed breaking and entering. Showed a cigarette to a dog. Dog meat will then lead me to Fort Hagen, and since he's shipped, I'll have a satellite location of him at all times. I felt that I was a little too underleveled to fight Kellogg, so I decided to start doing a few settlement quests. Because of my efforts helping out the Commonwealth, it was time to retake the castle. Preston and his small army was absolutely useless as Glass Joe was chased down numerous times by several apocalyptic crabs. At one point, I thought it would be a good idea to try and blow up a car to get rid of most of the enemies. Because the crabs were a bit too much for me at the time, I decided to go and help out our local troops again. Watched as the world's most oblivious man turned over his land to me.
You can count on us.
I went back to the Drumlin Diner to kill Trudy so that there would be no witnesses to what I've done at the beginning of the run. Because I decided to help Deacon and his job with the railroad, I knew that a lot of fighting and a lot of deaths were about to come to me. Well, time to cue the music. After helping out with various settlement quests, I then picked up the trail of Kellogg and began my assault on Fort Hagen. The fight against Kellogg went a lot easier than I planned because with my Iron Fist perk I disarmed him at some point and beat him down. The local military decided to call in reinforcements. Meanwhile I went inside the brain of a dead mercenary. While inside of Kellogg's memories, I started to drive myself crazy running around in circles and learned the location of an ex-Institute scientist. When I arrived at Virgil's cave, I carefully snuck my way past a Deathclaw. Once inside of his cave, Virgil told me to go track down an Institute Courser and kill one for his brain chip, and in return I'd have to get a special serum for him. Once outside of the cave, I felt it was a great idea to sneak up on a Deathclaw, which went about as well as you'd expect. Fighting my way through green tech genetics was the same hell you'd expect it to be. Lots of ranged weapons against one person who has a boxing glove. Additionally, one of the gunners comes equipped with a rocket launcher, which becomes about as much of a problem as you can imagine. Tried to fight gravity again, and lost, again. I fought the last few gunners stopping me from getting through the courser with shadowboxing, and somehow won. With the last few gunners dead, I started to plan my strategy for the Institute Courser. Now I know what you might be thinking, this is the part of the video where I use Mama Murphy's cheat code and instantly win the fight with the Courser. And you would be thinking wrong. Glassjoe is many things, but a cheater he is not. With the Courser finally dead, I scooped out its brains, granted the final wishes of a dead man, and granted the wish of a living man. So I gave him a kiss on the cheek and left green tech genetics. I gave the Courser's brain to the railroad and got it decoded, gained the blueprints to get me inside of the Institute, traded the instructions for some drive-thru, and through the power of duct tape and fishing line, I was able to get teleported inside of the Institute. Once inside of the Institute, the father of the father meets the father, kills the father, and is then sent to the Holy Father. Confused? Good. Afterwards, I reloaded the save and started talking to the Institute leaders. Fulfilling my promise to Virgil, I went inside of his old laboratory and punched my way into curing Virgil. The Assaultron inside of Virgil's lab, however, proved to be a massive problem for this run, as it was able to kill me several times. The Assaultron in his lab was so busted it was able to kill me 12 times in a row. At some point I thought it would be a good idea to get the high ground, thinking the Assaultron would not be able to hit me. I was very wrong. Eventually I was able to succeed by going inside and out of the laboratory several times and getting the sneak attacks on the Assaultron. With the Assaultron out of the way, I grabbed a weird looking potion and continued working with the Institute. I used a cheat code on the leader of the Raiders at Libertalia, made Piper pipe down about interviewing me for her newspaper, punched a robot so hard it started to defy the laws of physics. The robot, however, did not like this and caused me to die 6 times. Built a couple of artillery pieces, and blew up a perfectly good piece of architecture. Died to a pack of ghouls. Watched a second episode from National Geographic, showing as a Deathclaw fought and killed a couple of stingwings. The Deathclaw, however, was still hungry and caused my 93rd death. After doing a few missions with the Institute, I decided to make my intentions clear with the Institute by killing the father, fought and lost gravity a 3rd time and lost, and got banished from the Institute. and prepared for the Institute's assault against my castle. While Joe hungered for more experience points and more level ups, I decided it was time to fight Swan. Take that, bald bull! Killed a raider who would not respect the 1v1, and finished the job against Swan. Continuing my quest to get more XP, I hosted the world's worst family reunion. Lorenzo decided to take pity on me and give me a performance enhancer. Played post-apocalypse politics and killed Mayor McDonough. After killing the mayor, Joe continued his conquest to get more XP and cleared out raider-infested areas such as Hangman's Alley and Corvega Assembly Plant. Once I finished with the Corvega Assembly Plant, I made my way to Bad TFL listening post and died one time. Eventually, I said screw it, it's time, and started my assault against the Institute. And so, with the Institute destroyed, Glass Joe was able to redeem his record and was able to prove that he is, in fact, the greatest boxer in all of the Commonwealth. If you found any of this run at all entertaining, I would greatly appreciate if you considered subscribing and even liking the video. Thanks for watching. I am Sleepy Time Tim, saying goodnight.